Hi, my name is Joan, and I was asked if I would be willing to share a time when God has answered one of our prayers. And I tell you, when I first got asked that question, it simply overwhelmed me because I couldn't even imagine how do I begin to just tell you like one time that God has answered our prayers. And I thought right away about the time when I was 13 years old and God literally removed a brain tumor from my mom's brain and gave me my mom back. Or about the time when our son was in a severe accident that he fell 18 feet from a ladder. He had a coma score of 3. The doctors told us that if he did survive, he'd have long term of rehab needed. And 8 days later, he walked out of there on his own 2 feet with no recovery things needed. Or do I tell you about the time when all 3 of our children had a chronic disease that had no cure, still has no cure, and all of them have been healed from that? Or I could tell you about the time when our grandson was accidentally exposed to carbon monoxide in a garage, fell limp in my son's arms, and suffered no long-term consequences of that. We had another grandson that was riding his bike down the gravel road, slipped into the ditch, and fell down a huge ditch that was just full of big rocks, and walked out of there with not a scrape on him. There's just over and over of God's goodness of what He has done for us. I think about how we were led to Hope Church, just God's pathway of just how Lau and I were searching, and He just opened the doors for us here that we belonged here at Hope Church. Or Lau and I find when we travel together, there is so many times that we can be on a trip, there's a guide needed, and so many times they'll say to us, oh, we've never gotten the opportunity, or there's only like 3% of the time do people actually see this. And it's just like God just shares His creation with us each time when we travel, and it's so fun to see what He does. And I just want to encourage you in your walk in prayer that wherever you're at, just keep looking for the opportunity that God answers prayers, because He answers mine every day. Just think of every time when you get home safely, or if your children, when they're safe at school all day, just each day God has ways of protecting us, of just keeping us from illness. Just think of all through COVID how your family was protected. There's so many times that we can thank God for all how He answers our prayers. And I just want to encourage you that for me personally in my life, I have just learned that I pray for many of you, that it's just so many opportunities that God gives us to just spend time in prayer with Him. He wants us to have time with Him, and I can't encourage you enough to just spend your time in prayer with God. It is so worth it. Thanks for letting me share.